How's it going, everybody? Justin, back for another episode of the Maine State of Mind. This week, episode 44 features Andrew Geaghan, part owner, co-owner, and head brewer at Geaghans Brothers Brewing Company and the Geaghans Pub and Brewery in Bangor. He is a longtime friend of mine. He actually used to work with my dad, but I also knew him from my days in just at high school. So that was about 16 years ago. I also, when I moved back to Bangor in 2017, I ended up working back at the brewery and the pub, um, serving in the tasting room, helping in the packaging line before I became the general manager at Orono Brewing Company. So, Andy and I go back many years. Great friend. You can also check him out. I also have another podcast called Rockin' the Dad Pod. He was on with my buddy Brian Keyser and I to talk about being a father and the work-life balance. You can check that out on all the social media platforms, as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can find this podcast on all of those networks. Please follow, like, subscribe, whatever you need to do to get us out there. I really appreciate it. Andy and I talked for a little while on this podcast, episode 44. Andrew Geaghan of Geaghans Brothers Brewing Company and the Geaghans Pub and Craft Brewery, located in Bangor, Maine, and in Brewer, Maine. You can find them on social media and also at Geaghans.com. So I really appreciate Andy coming on. We had a great time of chatting, talking about wings, beer, and all things around that. So enjoy episode 44 here on the Maine State of Mind with myself and Andy Geaghan. How's it going, Andy?
Hey, it's good. It's good. Good to see you.
I guess I probably should have taken a drink of that water before we look at that nice little like pour. What's funny too is like
here.
We had talked about doing this for like a couple weeks now. We've talked about you coming on, and I was like, I got to stop by and get some Geaghans beer. And then next thing you know, I worked 65 hours last week at OBC, and I just
you guys opened
time.
the tasting room back up. You got that. You got everything open back up. That's great to see, man. It's been a wild year for sure. It's been
for
great.
Sure.
We
and of course, and as you know, it was like 55 degrees on Monday and Tuesday, and then then it rains and it's 30 degrees on Saturday when we're actually open. So
really helps with the outdoor seating there when it rains like that. It's delightful.
I think our kitchen liked it. Thursday was crazy. Like Thursday was just like, people wanted to get out there. People showed up. We opened at 4. People showed up at 3:45. Just trying to do something different. And the kitchen was a little overwhelmed, little not expecting to do that much business. And then but then by Sunday, I obviously on a business standpoint, you want to do as much business as possible. And for the bartenders, you want them to get tipped as much as possible. You just want the best. You want it to be busy. But then I went back to the Sunday morning and looked at the kitchen, and I'm like, I hope today's a little slower for them.
Yeah. Well, and this year has been so interesting because with everything going on with COVID, obviously, you've got to temper some of that too. Like we want to be busy at the pub all the time, but we absolutely don't want to get too busy, and like things that used to be a challenge, like managing a waiting list. That used to be a challenge. Well, now it's an absolute challenge because it used to be you'd get a waiting list and that's cool. That's fine. And people would just hang out and wait in the lobby and it would get really tight and it would get compacted. You can't do that. You don't want to do that. And then on top of that, you're not allowed to do that. So now the waiting list turns into this whole like phone numbers and people sitting in their cars, and are they gonna hang out and wait long enough, or are they gonna split, and who it's been a hassle, but it's you got to do what you got to do to get through these times, and I feel like we've done okay, and I'm glad to hear you guys at OBC are back up and rolling, and here's to hey, I'll actually do this. Here's to moving on, getting back to it, and just still being okay through it all.
And it's funny because we've obviously Geaghans 1975 with the brewery. You guys are what almost 10 years old for the brewery, right? This is the year 10 years.
Yeah, this is the year. Yeah, this is 10 years for us in the brewery. We are We got to celebrate our 45th anniversary in the middle of a pandemic for the pub, so that was delightful. We got all kinds. If you missed the party, that's because it was a pandemic. So
Because
we'll,
everybody
we'll
missed the party.
we'll save it for our 50th, which is kind of crazy to think of a restaurant being within striking distance of 50 years. And I mean, it's crazy enough to have a brewery that's 10 years old right now. And, um, it feels like just yesterday we were the new guy, and now we're like, we're one of the older people in the room. We've been at it longer than so many people. And it's crazy to think how the industry has developed and changed in those ways. And, we're along for the ride.
It's
Speaking
funny
of
how
along for the
fast,
ride,
like,
there's a puppy walking around. I don't know. You're
there
probably
you
hearing
go.
the footprints. Hey, that's just my pup trying to say hi to everybody.
It's funny how you go from calling people and asking people questions uh, about like different things to buy for the brewery
Yeah.
or techniques that they may
Yeah.
have used or equipment to the people who they call you.
Right.
And it seems like just yesterday you and I were having a conversation about how you guys are going to open a brewery and you're making
Yeah.
test batches in the garage
Yep.
and all that stuff. And it seems like just yesterday you guys were just at the pub doing it. And now you at your place at Abbott Street, and it's fascinating how fast time goes. Um,
Yeah. I mean, the journey,
Crazy.
the journey from A to B, somehow went through X, Y, and Z, I think, in there somewhere. But it's also as much as you can look back and it seems like a lifetime ago of kicking things off. And some of the journeys that you and I have been through, a lot of things together, even before the beer world and
Mhm.
and those sorts of things. And to think about how quick life goes, it seems like forever, but also you wake up and it's like, wow, we're at 10 years, we're at 45 years with the pub. um I'm I'm looking at it on a personal side. I'm about to have my 20th high school reunion this year. It's like, what? But I'm only 18 still.
Yeah,
Like, well,
exactly.
actually, no, I'm 21.
Yeah.
I'm 21.
It's funny how you mentioned that you're 18 still. You had the whole idea. So I was just had so my landlord, Mark Roberts, who actually lives by your uncle in
Yeah,
Warrington.
yeah, Mark. Yeah,
He comes to the pub and he
yeah,
went up to OBC on Friday night or Saturday, and I was talking about how when I first moved back to Bangor, so I moved back to Bangor in 2017, and one of the first people I reached out to was Andrew Geaghan, a good friend of mine, and so got in touch and I started working at the pub. But eventually I moved on from moving to the pub, helping with some packaging here and there, working at
yep.
the tasting room, and then I came over to Orono Brewing Company. But my first 2 weeks at Orono Brewing Company, I went in to just have a beer at the big table we have in downtown Bangor in a small spot. And I look at the bar, and there's Paul Butler, who is the principal of Bangor High School, but also was my English teacher in high school.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm looking at him, I'm going, oh my gosh, the last time I saw that guy, I was only 17, 18 years old. He can't see me drinking beer.
Yeah.
This is not possible. So I'm like in my mind, and then quickly it flipped that no, that was 10 years ago. I mean, I had
Totally
moved
cool.
away. And then I bought him a beer. And so that was like that how quickly it went from I shouldn't be drinking this beer in front of my English teacher to let me buy you a pint.
Yeah,
How fast
yeah.
time moves. It was
It's
just
unreal.
fascinating.
It's unreal. Yeah, I mean, and for me to be third generation in a generational family business now is crazy. Like I remember, um when I was growing up, I was the little kid that used to run around the bar and steal the maraschino cherries. And like, it's crazy to think that, now, and for us, we have such longevity with so many of our staff that we still have staff that were working with us when I was in kindergarten.
Mhm.
Like it's pretty crazy. I mean, some of them, geez, I think Ken's probably been there since when I was born. I mean, it's going to be pretty close. Some of these folks have been there, my whole life, and it's so cool to see time fly like that sometimes. But then also to see like how you can build this community and have that longevity and have those, way back in the day stories. We'll see
Mhm.
some pictures sometimes that people talk about the pub all the time, about how it never changes, how it's always the same, it's always the same. And there are aspects of it that are always the same, but I'll tell you what, show you a picture of it from the early 80s to what it looks like now, there's not much that's the same.
No.
Like it's all changed, but the thing that stays the same are the vibe and the feel and the focus and our mission has stayed the same as a pub. And it's kind of funny to talk about a mission in a pub, but I really believe it. In my life and in my ministry life, which is something that Justin knows quite a bit about. Um, I feel really called to be in the pub life.
Mhm.
I just feel like it's a place that I'm supposed to be to be building community and engaging with those things. And um, it's cool to see it all happen for many, many years.
It's crazy to see that, like, your business, like the food you guys have, the beer you have, and the community you have, seems like it'd be an easy thing to franchise in a sense. Like, just if you think about, like, you could potentially open a place in Portland or in
Yeah,
northern Maine and be successful, but I never think you could ever replicate what you have at the pub, because you'd almost want to, like, to redo what's in the pub and make it almost, it would seem fake, like in the
right.
same sense, like wouldn't want to open a fancy new restaurant because
Yeah,
the pub
yeah.
has some of that history, the walls talk, and
It's
that's why
like
the pub is unique.
that's Wayne's basement, but
Yeah,
that's not Wayne's basement.
it's
Yeah, no, I like um we actually get that ask all the time. Like
yeah.
when are we going to open another one? The the quick answer is I really enjoy seeing my family a little bit at least, and when you are in that world if we were to add on, I, so much of what it's about is that community that we build and the people. And you can't just recreate that. I mean, we could ship our beer to another spot, we could put in a 1 barrel or a 5 barrel system in a brew pub anywhere. We can replicate the wings, we can do those aspects of it. Um, and those things are great, and it probably would work
Yes.
a franchise thing. It probably would work, but th- that's not what it's about to me. It's not about selling more and making more money and those sorts of things. And I'm always trying to look for ways to make more money and be more profitable and do those things. It's a business, you have to do that. But um the idea of everything it would take to get to that point just doesn't seem like it's worth it to me. It's not why I'm in it. It's not what I'm doing. But yeah, it definitely that's a question that keeps coming up and up and up. And um I'm never going to say never to anything, but
Correct.
that's about as close to a never as I could get you. Maybe when I came back into the business after being away for a bunch of different things, um when I came back into the business, it was bringing in the brewery side of things. Who knows if one of my kiddos wants to be a part of it? Maybe they're going to be the one that wants to franchise it. Who knows? And good for them. I'll let them with young legs carry that if and when that day happens. And who knows? They might be any number of things.
And that's one of the things. I mean, as the owner of Brewing Company, Abe Firth,
Mhm.
and the First, and obviously other people too. But I just the Abe has that conversation a lot too, because people ask him the same question of Owner Brewing Company. We're obviously not nearly as old as the pub, or I mean, you were, like I said, about half the age of the brewery. But it's one of those things. You've also cultivated a partnership with your distributor. And
Yeah.
so, like, your food is not part of that, but your beer is. And so, like, if you were to open a spot in Portland, next to a place that buys a ton of your beer, or in northern Maine, someone next to someone who buys a ton of your beer, you're taking away business potentially from them.
Right.
And so, over these 10 years, you've cultivated a relationship with a distributor that, you probably want to, like,
Yeah.
give them the credit too. So,
Yeah. The distributor and the account. I
yeah,
mean, there are all sorts of towns throughout Maine, and our brand is much more focused, north and east. It's
yep,
odd, but 75% of our beer is still sold Bangor, north and east. We do really strong with our distributors in central Maine, and we move some beer down into the Portland market, but it's pretty small numbers compared to what we're doing up in this direction. So we travel extensively throughout northern and eastern Maine, and there's so many small towns throughout. Even it's not that like Portland needs to have 10 more breweries. They could if they want to. There's plenty of draw. But I think we're headed to a point where once we get through this pandemic, things settle out, you're still seeing that we have a lot of growth for craft beer.
Hmm.
An overwhelming majority of beer drinkers are still drinking big multinational brands, which is totally cool. But that push for local continues to grow and continues to grow and continues to grow. And I see all these towns that wow, this is a spot that could support a good brew pub. Um, but two things. It's going to be more authentic to have somebody from that town open
Hmm.
up the brew pub and do their thing. And two, those towns that I'm in because there's a great bar or a great store that has our product, and I don't want to come step on toes like that.
Hmm.
It just it's again because it's not what I'm into. It's not what I want to do. The distribution's great. The distribution's fun. But the core of what we do is about Bangor
Hmm.
and the pub and really just the community that we're building there. Um, so yeah, it's a weird thing, but we're really happy the way we are for the most
It's
part. And I say that as the pub's under renovations right now. We're open,
yes.
but we're tweaking some things and fixing some things, and it's we constantly changing but always staying the same.
But like you're happy in the location you're at and the idea where you are. Like you never, it doesn't mean you can't modify. Like you said, excuse me, 1980s in the pub side it looked different than it does
Oh,
now.
oh, big time.
But it's like you can make modifications over the years. But it's like where you are at in the generic area you're at and stuff like that is working. And one of the things I remember from Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports when he does his pizza reviews, he
Yeah,
always talks about the grading he gives when he does it, and it's like if it's a pizza that's worth driving for, he put, obviously gives it a higher rating. He says, if I
yeah,
rate anything below a 7, it's not worth driving for. You probably can get something in your area that's just as good as this. And
yeah,
so that is something that Geaghans has, and with the beer and then the wings and the food menu you guys have, it's like whenever I return to Bangor before I move back, was like that's a place I have to go. And so
yeah.
there's different things that like if you have a product that's worth driving for, then you can stay local and people will still come. And when basketball tournaments are in play and concerts and stuff like that, you guys are
Yeah.
always rocking because people are like, oh, we're in Bangor, we've got to go to the pub and get some wings and a beer.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that. Yeah, and I mean, that's been really intentional, particularly over the last few years. With the first 25 years of our existence, it was laying foundation. It was getting to a place where we were gonna survive to the greater or lesser extent. So that's a shout out to anybody who's in the restaurant world that's in the kind of first decade of a restaurant. It's hard. Like it's hard. You're gonna be super exciting. You're gonna be the new kid on the block. There's gonna be that honeymoon period, and then the grind happens by year 2, 3, 4, 5. And
Then a pandemic hits.
yeah, well, and that's it. For so many folks right now, they're going through that, and it's crazy. Um, and we are concerned every day
Mhm.
about keeping it all together, and we don't take anything for granted. Um, it's all hard work every day, and I mean that. I mean, I started my morning this morning at 7 a.m. with a production meeting, and I'm gonna head out from here and go back into the office and bust around on all sorts of things. There's always stuff to do. One of us is always at the pub or at the brewery or around, and um, but we're fortunate that we've gotten to a point where you're right. We've been here, and people look at us as this fixture of Bangor, and we're so grateful for that. We can't thank our fans and friends enough for that support, and it really gives us some opportunity to be a little bit more comfortable, but still, the day we feel like we've got it all figured out is the day we start dying. And
Mhm.
so, it's great to be where we are and to be that fixture and to be that place, but you only get there from grinding and grinding for a very, very long time. And I have a lot of huge respect for my dad and my uncles who are my business partners now, particularly for the hard times, for those lean years. There were a lot of lean years, and people don't see it now. Um, and I'll be the first to say I'm not very well equipped to do what they did, to do the
Hmm.
grind when it was a daily grind just to stay above water. Um, I don't know that I would have stuck it out as long as they did. But on the flip side, I think when I came back into the business, I brought some ideas and some energy and some new vision and life and push that they maybe saw. I'm not saying that I came and I'm like, hey, I have this idea that you've never thought of. That's foolish. They are brilliant and they've thought of everything. But I was able to come back in and say, hey, we can actually really do this. So let's give it a shot and breathe some new life and do some things. But man, oh man, yeah, it's been the journey of the pub is not certainly not a straight line, and what you see today is not what we were, um, as far as the reputation, as far
Hmm.
as the stability, as far as what our bank statements look like. We're excited now that for the last 15, 20 years we've been able to pay our bills early. It's like, hey,
Yes.
it's great, we can pay them.
Yes,
you
exactly.
know it comes
And
in and
even
we're not like, oh, I got 30 days, all right, we're gonna hold that one for 25. It's been wild. And that's business success right there, is just get to the point where you can pay your bills and maybe pay yourself, and it's crazy how much better it gets from there.
it is, and it's one of those things that people like talked about this past year, this past 12 months, 13 months for a lot of these places is, um, you're paying your bills and you're not going out of business is a success. Like if you can just break even, even the littlest amount, it was a successful year in 2020, and thankful for some of these businesses. I mean, think back on it; those lean years, if a pandemic would have hit in those lean years for Geaghans, you guys
Oh,
might
we,
not have been
we
here
would have
right
been
now.
over. It would have been the end.
Mhm.
Even 15 years ago, um, which is a long time ago. I
Mhm.
get it, but 15 years ago, the business was 30 years old. You got to remember that. 15 years ago, we would have survived. I'm confident in that, but it would have been devastating.
Mhm.
It would have been devastating. 20 years ago, I'd have to ask my old man. He'd be able to tell me for sure. 20 years ago, I think it would be a pretty good toss up of would we hang in. 25, 30 years ago for sure. It would have been the end of it for,
Yep.
for for so many years. For the first decade and a half, 2 decades of our company, this kind of blow, um, would have been debilitating. It would have been unbelievably debilitating. So I'd love to take this opportunity to say to all the people out there that are really, really struggling with this, our hearts go out to you. And we hope you guys can hold strong and take advantage of the government programs that have come out. Really, really take some time and figure that stuff out, because there's support out there, and it's there for a reason. So go get what you can get, and hang strong, and hopefully be there for your communities, and be there for generations, like we've been able to be blessed to do.
And I will also say, one of the things people always ask me, like when we talk to people about OBC, is like reach out to other restaurants that maybe look like they know what they're doing too. If you have a friend restaurant that maybe knows how to do these government programs or maybe has gotten some of this stuff, feel free to reach out, because most of these companies will actually give you a hand and say, this is the person I called, this is the person I emailed, this is the form you need. There are some people that I just look at, and they went out of business before even attempting anything because they maybe not even
Right.
didn't even know what was available or what to do.
Yeah, no, and
And
I'll say that for sure. Anybody listening to this that's curious, reach out to me direct. There's stuff that, I'm Andrew at Geaghans.com. Pretty easy to find, and we've been fortunate to be able to figure it out. And if you're on the fence, if you're trying to hold strong, and you haven't reached out for that support, it's there.
Mhm.
It's there, and not maybe a silver bullet, but it's
No.
gonna help. It's pretty wild. And I've said it for a long time. Like when Orno Brewing first came to be, we took a day off of our production schedule and help the crew there move tanks in. And you know it, it I I'm a very competitive person, and I want to win, and I
Yeah.
plan on winning. I plan on being the best, but in in the restaurant world and in the brewery world, I'm never looking to beat somebody. I want to win. I want to win. Um, but I don't want other people to lose. That's
Mhm.
not fun for me. It's not what I'm looking to do. Um, and I think that goes kind of as a general truth for most people in the industry. They're in it to do the best they can. They want to have the best beer possible. They want to have the best restaurant. They want to have the best of everything. But um, you don't really fit in if you're targeting like I'm gonna beat you. You know, like it's just we're we're in the beer business. You know, like it, calm down a little bit if that's where you're
It's-
coming at it from.
I want you to sell us to sell 500 cases and you to sell 499. Like
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's I don't want you
yeah,
us to sell 500 cases and you to sell 10. It's
yeah.
that like I want to be able to sell 1,000 cases of beer to someone and that we sell one more case than the next person, not destroy another company. And that's
And
the
even
that's
yeah, and even still, like there's so many differences. I mean,
mm,
you look at it and like it's super easy for me to make this comparison between Geaghans and
yeah,
Orno Brewing,
yeah,
because we couldn't be more opposite
that's it.
in our field. Your feel is young and hip and graffiti on the wall
Yep,
and hazy IPAs and sours and much more targeted toward that college age
yep.
demographic that you have right there in Orno, and that kind of more naturally to that sort of 25 to 35-year old that is in that spot. And that doesn't mean that you don't appeal to 75-year-olds, and it doesn't mean that we don't appeal to 22-year-olds, but our style of beer is more old school traditional. The pub feel is more old
Hmm.
school traditional. You can't compare Orno Brewing and Geaghans, other than the fact that yep, we are definitely both breweries with restaurants in sort of northeast or sort of northeast central
Yeah,
Maine.
yeah.
You know,
That's
we're,
it.
if you're from Portland, we're in northern Maine. If you're from northern Maine, we are not in northern Maine. I'll throw that out there too for anybody who's listening to make that known that the Bangor is not northern Maine. We are certainly we're this weird sort of not quite central Maine either. You know, but
But it's
yeah.
funny because you guys sell 75% of your state of Maine sales, or obviously you guys are only in the state of Maine, but like 75% of your sales are for you are you said north and east of Bangor, whereas probably
Yeah.
75% of our sales in the state of Maine are, south and west of Bangor. So it's like
Right.
it is that aspect where
Oh, look at
different.
that.
Is that your phone?
I think that's me. Come on. Yep.
But yeah, so that aspect of
My car
we
warranty, I'm sure.
yeah, exactly, or your social security number has been
Yes, yes. This
that's
is
a
a
new
social
one.
security office, and we are contacting you for reasons.
But it's like yeah, that's the reason why we're in those places because it seems like there's a reason why each brewery should be different. But in the same sense, I had one of your servers at Geaghans up at the my restaurant over the weekend having beers with his girlfriend, and it's
Oh
like
yeah,
that and I obviously I'm a mug club member at Geaghans, and so
yeah,
we're also, if you think about, most of us in the brewing industry too want to drink lagers, pilsners, things like that you guys are very good at as well. So it's like for me, it's like I can't get that on a regular basis. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go to the
Mm.
pub and get that because I can get that at Geagan's. I know I can get that at Geagan's. Have two or three
yeah.
mugs and
And
be able to
there's
drive
so
home.
yeah, and there's so much of it too for us. We do make hazy IPAs because we brew as like a brew pub setting, so
Yep.
we make a little bit of everything, and we try and do it well, but representative of who we are and
Mhm.
our culture. So, we'll do those hazy IPAs and we'll do some sours and we'll do some different funky things. Um, but it's not the core of who we are. And a big part of that is we don't need to be that
Hmm.
person. That's what you guys are.
Hmm.
We'll let you guys as Orno Brewing be that thing. And not that sounds really, that's not how I meant that to come across. It's not like we are in charge of letting you, but we look at it and say they do that well. Why would we pursue that when we can pursue all these other things and have a very successful business being ourselves? Let them have a successful business being themselves and be cool with it. Let's all just be cool being in this thing. The beer world and the restaurant world is certainly big enough for a lot of different views as long as your quality is up there.
And that's the thing is people come in and we both know this, and I can relate it to another industry or topic that we are both privy to is when someone comes into OBC and asks for red ale, hey, could you have a red ale? Do you have a red ale? Do you have a red ale or West Coast IPA? And it's like, yeah, we make those every once in a while, but no, go to a place that has that. We have no
Go to
problem. Go to
Geaghans.
another. Yes, exactly. But we also know this being in growing up in church and both working for churches. It's like when people would be like, you should play this music. And it's like, well, that church down the street plays that music. We have no problem with you leaving here and going there and getting the same exact experience, but one that fits you. Just because
Right.
you're here, I don't mean I have to cater to you. This is who we are as a brewery, and this is who
Yeah.
Geaghans is as a brewery. We're gonna do our thing, and if you don't like us and our style, then go to the other place. We're not like go to the other place, but like there's a place for you, and that's why this works and why I
Yeah.
think the brewing industry is never really gonna die out. I mean, there's gonna be people who close over the years, but it's like every brewery has their own unique something. And if you like that something, then go to that brewery. Don't go to another brewery because it's closer and ask them to become that brewery because
Right.
that's not who they are and that's not their identity. You have an
Right.
identity at Geaghans and we have an identity at OBC. Let's keep those identities because
Yeah.
that's what makes us where we are.
And the amount of time that you go after brewing a red ale is the amount of time we put into
Hmm.
a hazy IPA. It happens. It happens, a few times a year we drop one. And when you guys drop a red
Hmm.
ale, it's a good red ale. When we
Yeah.
drop a hazy IPA, it's a good hazy IPA, but it's not what we
Yes.
do as the core. It's like we're an Irish pub, and yeah, you can get nachos,
Yep.
but they're not traditional.
You can order. You have a pizza.
They're fine.
You can get
It's all
pizza at
good. You can
at
get
Geaghans, and you're not
whatever.
a
Yeah,
pizza
all
restaurant. You know.
kinds of stuff. You
Yeah.
can get those things, but our corned beef and cabbage. Now that's prime. Our wings, because
Yep.
we're an American Irish bar for sure. When people get too hot on the Irish thing for me, it's like I'm about as American as you get. Yeah, my
Well, it's
beard
like
comes a little
it's a Chinese
red.
food restaurant with a French fries in the buffet, like in
Yeah,
the slice of
right,
the pizza.
right,
It's
right. You got
not
you
a
got
China.
to you got to be real to who you are, but it's funny.
And we have one nitro tap at OBC in Orno, and twice a year there's a beer tapped on it. Like it's not
Yeah.
like whereas you can go to the pub and most likely have a nitro pour most
Oh
weeks
yeah.
at the pub, and so there's
Yeah,
that aspect
usually.
too. Like it's the serving style and serving port too. Speaking of wings, how the
Right.
heck did that start?
Yeah, that's a wild story. I'm not honestly 100% sure. I know it was somewhat of an organic thing. They had been wings were particularly the boneless wings. We had bone-in wings for a time, and particularly the boneless wings kind of just came to be. And at the pub, we give a lot of people. Um, Really most anybody in our staff we give some creative license to, and say, hey, go try something, particularly kitchen crew. If
Mhm.
you want to, you've got the ingredients, you've got your employee meal. If you want to try making something from what we've got kicking around, give it a shot for the most part, and see what comes of it. And if it's great, we might explore it. And similarly, we listen to our front of house staff. And the story that I've heard actually goes back to Ken Yealy and actually UMaine hockey. That he was out following UMaine hockey to Frozen Four or a Hockey East thing, and had these boneless wings at some restaurant somewhere far afield from little Bangor, Maine. And he came back. He's like, "Oh, we got to make something like this happen." And I I don't know how much that's the actual truth of the story, but that's the story I've heard. And who am I to get in the way with facts? But yeah, it would have
I wouldn't
been.
argue with Ken, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's cool, sure. And over the years we've perfected the recipes
Yep.
and different sauces and different things. But the thing that really sets the wings apart is their consistent, they're high quality. We bring in the best tenders you can get. We hand bread them, just very very lightly breaded, just to keep them tender and juicy and good to roll on, that sort of stuff. And everything's done right to order and all that sort of stuff. And so it's a struggle for us because, believe it or not, it's one of our least profitable items,
Hmm.
because we use such a high quality product, and we want to be cognizant of the fact that they're not cheap. But every time we kind of look at it needing to raise the price, it's like, it's getting up there. But as you see the profit margin slip away, you got to kind of make those calls sometimes. And it's been a while since we've done it, but yeah, it's crazy to think that we average somewhere in the 55 to 60,000 pounds of boneless buffalo wings a year is what we roll, just through one restaurant in Bangor. It's crazy to think about. Crazy to think about.
And it's funny because it's those weird things that you see, like some of these cooking and food shows where it's like, diners, drives, and dives, and they go to places
Yeah.
and it's like there's this random restaurant that has this random thing that's the most successful thing on the menu. It's like so and so's roast beef place, and their best thing on the menu is their pizza. And it's like it's the
You
same thing
never
when you do like
know.
the pub. It's
Yeah.
like people are like, "Oh, go to Geaghans pub." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not a big Irish pub. Do you like buffalo wings? Yeah, I love buffalo wings. Go to Geaghans. Definitely
Yeah.
pick up some wings at Geaghans because that's the place we're gonna get wings in Bangor."
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah,
it
the
just
whole,
baffles people that's an Irish pub with good wings.
yeah, that whole the whole thing of Gagans is when you really kind of sit back and look at it. We are tucked in the back. For anybody who's listening who hasn't been there, we're tucked into the back corner of a motel. No, we're not talking like a high-end hotel. We're talking a motel. It's a serviceable, it's a fine place to spend a
Hmm.
night. It's clean, it's dry, it's warm, it's got the amenities you need. It's a totally serviceable motel. But it's a little motel. We're
Yep.
tucked in the back of that. We've added on to the building about 18 different times. We've been going at it for 45 years plus. We've been brewing for 10 years now. And you would absolutely never find it and always miss it unless you're looking for it. Like,
Hmm.
it's such a weird thing. You walk through the hotel lobby, and then you walk into this little pub that just kind of, it's got a thing, it's got a magic to it in that spot. And it's really the, I think, of the heart and soul of a lot of people being poured into it for so long is what gives it that life.
It is. I mean, we've been on this episode. We've been calling it the pub the whole time. It's like it's
Yeah,
come from a restaurant, to a name that's just the pub. And you're not the only pub in Bangor, and you're not the only
far from it.
Irish bar place in Bangor. And it just becomes you're the pub and you're that place. And one of the things you do get a benefit of is you were like kind of alone until Timber opened up across the street. You basically were like the only spot in that area other than what Burger
Yeah,
King for a little while.
yeah,
And then now
yeah,
that's a Chinese food restaurant. But like there's like if you're like driving through 9395 in Bangor and you're like, oh, I need some food, it's like, oh, you can pop right off here
yeah.
and get some food right at Geagan. So
And it's such an interesting thing. It used to be such a terrible location, for a lot of this too. Like, it was kind of you'd only go by that part of Bangor, if you lived in Hamden and you were
mhm.
coming into Bangor. Like, that was the only reason you'd be coming through. And just over the years, the way the waterfront has opened up, the way everything's happened on Main Street, we ended up growing into one of the premier locations in the town, really. And my dad, I think it was geez, probably 10 or 11 years ago, he'd say, you know, you stay in one place long enough, eventually it's going to be a good location.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we found ourselves in. And it's been wild to see, you know, all that struggle, all that work. And finally it's all sort of clicked over the last really decade.
Mhm.
Um, and we're now in a prime spot in a cool place with a killer story and a feel that like you could never, back to when we were talking about the whole sort of franchising
Yeah.
thing and all that sort of stuff, like those are the things that you couldn't replicate. You know, could we go into a town and match our menu and bring in the beer and have a cool feel and create a perfectly fine restaurant? Sure. I don't know that you could ever, without without 45 years of ghosts in that
Yeah.
building. I don't know that you could ever have another Geaghans. Like you just you can't do that.
No, and it's proof with your tasting room on Abbott Street in Brewer. It's like you guys have an excellent, beautiful, yeah, not state of the art, but it's way more state of the art in a sense than the pub is, in
Mm,
a brand new interior. When you walk in there, everything's new. Like you have
yeah.
nothing that's 75 years old. It's all
Yep.
new. And you did it, you guys have did an excellent job with that. It's a great place to drink. It's an awesome tasting room, but it's not the same. Like you don't
No.
get the same thing. And that's why you guys are successful over there and people go over there. And I know there's number of people who say, now you have the pub and you have the tasting room. Like we have a
Yeah.
tasting room in Bangor. Like we don't, it's not called the tasting room. the
Yeah.
the Geaghans tasting room and brewer is the tasting room to a lot of my friends,
Yeah.
and it's changed. I mean, obviously, I remember when I worked there and I served there. I wasn't in that location. I was
Right.
next to your 40-barrel fermenters
Yeah.
in a
Yeah. Sitting
movable
right there
metal
on the production
bar,
floor. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
with a little bit of wet floor sign because you're some of the tanks are a little wet and stuff, but you be able to duplicate and get a good experience, but it wasn't the same. You never could duplicate the pub over in Brewer. It has to be something different. You guys did that. You did your own thing, and you didn't try to like, let's bring over some stuff from the pub. No,
Right.
it's its own
Yeah.
thing.
You know, and again, like I said, 45 years of ghosts, and I mean that in a lot of ways. I mean, countless people have celebrated birthdays, celebrate every
Mhm.
birthday there. I mean, it's getting to the point that countless people have proposed to their significant other there, myself included. You know, and um, you know we've been the place that people have gone to for the after party for their wedding. We've been the place that people have gone to after funerals. We've been the place that, you know, for so all of those things, like so many of our regular customers, th- that space, that thing, and it just it's got a life of its own. And we are doing our best every day to honor that and keep it moving and keep it on the up and up and keep it, you know, really positive and making good business decisions around it. But also it's more than that.
Mhm.
And you got to be cognizant of what got you there. So like, we're talking right now, I mentioned that we've got renovations going on. um One of the we're changing a lot of things in the restaurant right now. We are you know changing a little bit in the dining room. Kind of crazy. We're going to make that feel a little bit more in line with the bar area. The space that used to be what we first built on for the brewery, we're turning that into a barrel room, like a cool almost tasting room vibe seating area that you'll have full menu service and all that sort of stuff. And because of COVID, we're putting quite a bit of effort into our outdoor space and those sorts of things. But whenever we make those decisions, inevitably we start talking about all these things. We can do this, and we can do that, and we can change this, and we can tweak that, and we can do this, and we can do that. And then we always look at it and say, does any of this change the feel? Does any of this make it feel like we want somebody who hasn't been there for 10 years to walk in and feel like it was exactly the same as they left it? But like I said, not much is the same. Not much is the same from 10 years ago, let alone 40 years ago. Um, and there's just something about it that has its own character and its own life.
And speaking of that, you have 45 years. Obviously, my parents used to go there. I know friends' parents used to go there, and so on. what do you think it's going to take to get the parents' kids to continue going there that live in the area? Is it just again, going there as a kid and now going there as an adult? Or do you think that there's things that you will have to change over the years to make sure that you get the next generation of people to come to the pub?
Again, we're always changing everything,
Hmm.
and that's the thing. So, you know, there are universal truths about humans and relationships and community and those sorts of things, and those are the things that we are very actively leaving alone.
Hmm.
You know, just the fact that you've got a place where it can be comfortable and
Hmm.
people know it's a safe place. So we feel confident about our next 40 years. We feel confident about our ability to continue on doing what we do. There are going to be different models and concepts for restaurants all over town that are going to come and be successful. There are going to be things that work and don't work, and we're going to keep up with trends to some extent. um, but we're confident that Wings and Beer aren't going anywhere. They
Yeah.
haven't gone anywhere for a very long time. And more than that, we're confident that community is something that everybody at some level looks for. And if we can continue to be that community center, that community hub, if we can do things the right way in our understanding of the right way of being a good community member, being a good community leader, making the right choices whenever we can on any of those sorts of fronts, um, we're confident that it's going to work out. And like we said, we added the brewery.
Hmm.
That drew a huge different demographic. We've added a whole smoker. We're doing our own smoked meats and cured meats and things of that nature. That's added a whole layer to things that draw a new crowd in. We're going to be constantly looking at
Hmm.
drawing the new crowd, but um, I think what we have there is already somewhat universal.
Yeah.
It's somewhat universal. We know that no matter who wins or loses an election cycle, you're going to have people there to celebrate, and you're
Hmm.
going to have people there to mourn. We
Hmm.
we know that no matter what's going on in the world, you're gonna have people that come to that community place, and so. Um, we're always going to look for the next thing. We're always going to look for the new thing, for the new twist, the new addition. I mean, adding the beer 10 years ago absolutely changed who we are.
Hmm.
um, but didn't change the core of who we are and what we're about. And so as long as we can keep doing it that way, I'm confident that we're going to be very all right.
And I think one of the things that I think everybody's noticed too, including places like Woodman's, now these restaurants have been around for a few years too, is the online ordering probably did a lot too. Like with
Mm-hmm.
the next generation that maybe the people that aren't exactly looking for community but want a quick meal and just want to be able to do online, get online ordering or
Yeah.
reward systems or eventually paying with your phone or things like that could also just small things that wouldn't be noticeable if you just sat down and wanted to pay with cash and have a beer and go home that you might not notice that, but it's someone who's 21 years old on his 21st birthday wants to pay for his beer, and use or get wings on reward points or all that kind of stuff too
Yeah.
is kind of cool. So
Yeah,
I
we're
think
keeping
that's the
up with
future
those
too.
trends and everything, but I mean, we're a pub in the
Yep.
in the oldest sense of the term. I mean, we're a public house, and we have something there that if you walk in and you get it. And that's not to say if you walk in and you don't like what we offer that there's something wrong with you, but
Mm.
there's something about that community aspect, that home feel, that community feel, that we're a safe place for people of all different walks of life. And we care, like we legit, I care about customers. I care about customers, and so many. It's almost funny to call some of them customers. I mean, they're
Yeah.
not at this point.
Family.
It just is. Yeah, it's just this thing. It's got a life of its own. And the biggest thing is just keep it on the rails. Keep it on the rails and keep it moving forward. Um, keep up with the trends as best you can. I mean, like you said, online ordering. That was something that didn't happen 5 years ago,
No.
and now about half of our sales through this pandemic have been online orders that we bring right out to your car, curbside, and you can take it to go, and but
And lucky enough, you guys switched POS systems early
yeah,
enough that you were
yeah,
like, it
yeah,
wasn't like in the middle of a pandemic, you're trying to do this. Obviously, it was all new for you, but like the idea that you had changed POS systems prior and you knew the POS system at least,
yeah,
and then you just had to like, change how you did things. Whereas some of these
yeah.
companies had like no, I mean,
Oh,
Woodman's was one of them. Woodman's had an PC America
yep.
old school computer system with a server on board in the house, and never would have been able to do online ordering. And before we opened back up in July, there, they got a new POS system, and they had to learn not only the POS system but also the to go and online ordering system at the
Yeah.
exact same time.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, we were fortunate there to have that go the way it did, for sure, for sure. Yeah,
But I mean,
way,
it's
way lucky.
you're obviously your dad and your uncles didn't, like, obviously they struggled. There was years of struggling, and they didn't go out there and change the business model or completely, or change the way it looked, or drastically to the point where maybe we need to go in a different direction. You push through, and kept the why. That's why you have the business you have now. They
Yeah,
didn't just like
yeah.
180 and do something different because they weren't financially stable or not.
To
And
that though, I will say the thing that really really transformed it though, in a lot of ways was when they really started listening to themselves more.
yep,
Listen, really, when my dad and uncles said we are who we are, and we're gonna somewhat unapologetically be who we are, and we're not going to be for everybody. And I think that really was a catalyst for a lot of this change in a positive direction. And coming to the realization of we're, we're going to get 1-star reviews. We're going to get people that come in and give us a 1-star review for whatever reason. Usually a one
yes,
star review that we get is somebody looking for something that we aren't. And
correct.
it's like, okay, yes, we don't offer that. You're correct. So if that's the only thing that's going to give
Yeah.
us more than 1 star, give us a 1 star and move on. And being okay with those things, really coming to a place where you're legit okay with the fact that you're not going to be everything for everybody, but you got to know who you are and what you're about. And we've locked that in. And I think we've locked it into some things that are true to ourselves and true to most people. Most people at some level want to have community, want to have connection, want to have a place of people who care, a place that's comfortable to be, a place that's easy, a place that's consistent. Those are the things that we bring to the table that I think those aren't going anywhere. Whether or not they're buying boneless wings or a pasta dinner, which we actually used to do. Um, those are details that matter a little bit, but more so it's those foundational bits of like who you are and what you're about.
I mean, you mentioned the customers. You have customers that go that like literally there at the bar or at their own booth every night. But
Yeah,
also, I think part of that is not just what you guys have done upper management, but like you mentioned the employees that have been there forever. I mean, I know
yeah,
when I took over for you in the serving and on the restaurant side, the dining room side, was back right as when you got engaged to Lindsay.
yeah,
I mean, I worked with Lance and I worked with Ken and I worked with some of these people who have been there forever. I work with some people who just recently stopped working there within the past couple of years, and part of that is people go to see those people,
yeah,
and they want to see those people, and they know that they wouldn't be there if they weren't taken care of.
yeah. And
If that's huge. I think that's one of those things that when you go to a restaurant, every time you go to the restaurant, there's someone else working there. You have a different experience every time you go. But
yeah,
because there's some consistency in that aspect of it, you go there and you get the same experience because it's the same people working there.
yeah, yeah. That's always a delicate balance too. And what I mean by that is we want our crew to have their personality and their character, and we want them to engage with customers in real ways, but that also brings a real challenge for management of um how do you keep it between the lines, how do you
Yeah.
keep it consistent, because if uh you go to the bar and one day it's Melinda and the next day it's Lance. Um, you need that bar experience to be having continuity,
Mhm.
but you also want it to be different and unique because of those two different unique individuals who are very good at what they do in different regards. They're, those two
Yep.
couldn't be any more different in their approach and the things that they're naturally good at, but they're both going to engage with the important core values of who we are.
Mhm.
um, it, our team gets for the
Mhm.
most part, and a lot of that's because we build up our team just like we build up the pub, in that we care about what you're up to, we care about what you're into, we care about who you are. um I want to hear about your kids, I want to hear about your spouse, I want to hear about the classes you're taking and what your dreams and aspirations are for once you leave us. um those are things that really valuing the person always wins out. It always
It,
wins out.
and it's true. I mean, it's one of those things that always made the connection, not just the fact that we have a restaurant and a brewery and you have a restaurant and a brewery, but one of those things that brought over for when I, left Geaghans to come to Orono Brewing Company was when you or your dad or Pete or Pat or anybody in your ownership or management asked me how I was doing, they wanted to know how I was doing. It wasn't
Yeah,
a pandering question. It's the same thing that Abe, Heather, Mark, and Asa have. When they ask me how I'm doing, they want to know how my wife's doing. They want to know how pregnancy is doing. They want to know all that stuff. They don't want to just be like, "How's it going?" because they have to say, "How's it going?"
right, right,
When Pete has his shift pint at the end of the night and he's standing by the by the bar, and I was finishing up my shift. He's like, "How are you doing?" He's asking me how I'm doing, not
right.
just to say how you're doing.
Yeah,
And that's one of those things that makes a difference to a lot of people.
yeah, and I mean, it's far from anything goes. I mean, we have very strict standards, and we have no problem, coming coming into a situation and being very black and white
Mhm.
of you got this wrong, you need to do better. But also there's a level of what's going on in your life, like, are you having a bad day? If you're having a bad day, we can work with that. Like, let's find a way to get us through it. If you're having a great day, let's celebrate it, let's get through that. Like, let's put you in a place to succeed. Let's help you get to a place where you if you want to be a career person here, great. Everybody I hire, I want to keep forever. Like,
Ever, yep.
it's just a thing. But also, if you've got aspirations and this is a step in the thing, let's help you get to that step. Let's let this be a tool that's mutually beneficial for everybody, and get you going, and get you moved, and get you to that next thing. Because we know we're not going to be everything for everybody, and that goes for staff, that goes for customers, that goes for everything. We are who we are,
Yep.
and we offer what we offer, and I think we do a real good job of being us. But there's a lot that we can't be and aren't, and we understand that, and that's one of the biggest things that has been um, a huge positive for us.
And I'm proof of that. I mean, I when I moved back to Bangor, I wanted to work in the beer industry. I didn't have any experience, and I had marketing experience. So I went and worked at Down East Toyota, which was a great company to work for. It was a great place to be, but it's not where I wanted to be long term. After I
Right.
moved back, it was when I got the job. Obviously, it was like, okay, I'll be here forever. But when I got back and I started going to the pub more and talking with you, and I was like, well, I don't want to be that anymore. I don't care if I have to take a major pay cut, I will come and serve in the tasting room. I will help on the packaging line, and you gave me an opportunity to do that. And then when I came to you and I was like, hey man, I got an opportunity to go over to Orono Brewing Company. You could have easily, as a business owner, been like, no, I really like Justin. I think his work attitude's great and his experience is great, but like, I want to keep him. So you could have been like, you know, a kind of a dingus and said, no, 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 he's not great at all that. He doesn't have the experience and kept me. Or you could have done what you did and gave me a great recommendation to go over there. And that's one of the reasons why Abe and Heather hired me in the first place. And so now I'm 4 years at Orono Brewing Company, general manager. And back in the day, if there was a position similar to what I took at OBC, I would have stayed at Geaghans,
Oh
and
yeah.
not to say that I'm not very happy with the decision I made. Just saying that like likelihood in different circumstances and different time, there likely would have still had a check coming from Geaghans instead of OBC.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, life is life, man,
Yeah,
and it just happens. And that's what we try. And I think with one of the biggest successes of our business is letting it be what it is, and being honest about who we are and what we are. And we love to under promise and over deliver. And the reality is, when I say I can't, it
yeah,
means I can't. And that's the long and the short of it. Like, hey, I can give you a great recommendation, but I can't match that job offer.
correct.
So go have it, go get it, man. Like,
I
and
mean,
those are the realities of business. And I think people who are able to let that stuff kind of wash over their shoulders and be what it is are much happier in life. Probably, being that hard ass might get you a little bit more quick money, but
mhm.
I don't think it's what gets you to be a generational business that people in your town are excited to bring their buddy from away to.
Yep.
That it's not what it, it's just not what gets you there.
Mhm. And you can feel that. Like I said, when you walk into the pub and you feel that if ownership sucks, then everybody else's attitude sucks. And so you can tell when you walk into a place that the attitude behind the scenes is not amazing. And
Yeah,
every time you walk into the pub, everybody's in a good mood, or if they're not in a good mood, they're very good at hiding it
yeah,
because
yeah.
they know that they need to put a face on for customers. And if they know you, obviously, I might have a different experience in regular Joe Schmo that comes in, but because they know me, but
Right. Right.
it,
Yeah.
it
You ask this, hey, how are you? They're going to tell you if
they're
they're
gonna
not.
tell me.
Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you about my dumbass kid.
Yes,
I just
exactly.
crashed my vehicle and
Yep.
it's, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's going to be real, but yeah, no, and that's 100% true. We encourage those things. We encourage those things greatly.
So, but it's I always enjoy it. And you talk about birthdays. Since I moved back to Bangor in 2017, I think I celebrated every one of my birthdays at Geagan's Pub, playing cornhole out back. Probably one of the first times of the year playing it because my birthday's in May, and it's not as super hot out. So
Nope, not yet.
2020 was probably the first year I didn't do that since I moved back
Yeah.
due to pandemic.
Yep.
But so it's one of those things that it's just, even though I work at Ornar Brewing Company and I get food I like and beer I like up there, it's sometimes just nice to be able to go back to where you're used to, and
Yeah.
having that experience with my good friends Mike and Karen, who also are Mug Club members, and
Yep. Hey guys.
I've met a number of people. I mean, Mike was my best man at my wedding, and Karen and Mike are two of my best friends ever, and I met them through the pub, the old tasting room, I should say,
Yeah.
in the old brewery, or the old metal table in the middle of
Yeah.
the packaging area, or the
Yeah.
production area, and I have to thank Geaghans to thank for that. So I have you to thank for basically letting me leave and go to OBC, and then I have Mike and Karen to the pub to thank for my two of my best friends in the world. So I'll always have that history with Geaghans, and obviously I became friends with you because you worked with my dad, and so there's all that too. But it's a small world, but it's one of the reasons why I like Geaghans is because of the community. I think
Yeah.
that's
Well,
what
we
you mentioned from the
appreciate that.
beginning. It's community and community.
You know what? I think you hit the nail on the head, bud, with that stuff. In that, that's the stuff. That's the stuff that we're gonna keep doing, because that's why we do all the other stuff. I worry about profit margins on chicken
Yeah,
tenders, and I worry
obviously.
about the price of hops in New Zealand, because I care about that stuff you just said.
Yeah.
I wanna keep it all afloat, and I want to be profitable. And it's great to make more money, sure, but I, I don't I don't need anything. I
Mhm.
don't I don't I don't need anything other than the community that's around me, and that's where we're gonna focus. And to hear those stories of I knew all that stuff.
Yep.
I was there while you were doing all that stuff. I've seen those relationships get built. But even still, hearing you say that right there, it that's motivation for me
Mm.
to head back into work here in an hour or so, and work harder, and continue to drive for the consistency and the quality, and the focus, and keep all those things in line, and just the way we want them to be.
I
Yeah,
mean,
because I mean, I want everybody who comes in to be able to have those sorts of stories.
yeah, exactly. My tattoo artist is a former bartender at Geaghans. The person
Yeah,
I contacted about buying a house is a former employee of Geaghans. It's like it's just one of those things that the community expanded, and when you had those people left, I mean, Jay wanted to be a tattoo artist. It's like, okay, good luck. We love it. Thank you for your service. Enjoy it. And I know a lot of your customers have gotten tattoos from him.
yeah,
How many people that are pub members have bought in houses through Jay Fletcher? Those
yeah.
those aspects of the next step is pretty cool. I mean, how many people have I served at Orono Brewing Company that also I served at Geaghan? So it's that cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a stepping stone, sometimes it's a long term career.
it's
And
it's it's kind of rare for me to do much of any business in town without it being a former team member
yep,
or a mug club member, or somebody. There's so many connections. I mean, we're a pretty small town, let's be
yes,
honest about that too. But I am so fortunate and blessed to be able to be in this position of having that be um the way our community is, and to have us be a part of it is an honor that really is the motivation for all the hard work, and all the rough days are made better knowing that that's the end result,
yeah.
and the reason why we're doing these things.
And you say small town, just last two, but when I met Mike and Karen, they lived in Winterport.
Yeah,
You have many Mug Club members and many people who come from Hamden and Winterport and random places that are so far
oh
away
yeah,
that and they're there every night. So it's like,
yep,
it's a small town, but you're reaching a big part. And I think that as long as Geaghans keeps on up and keeps the beer quality up and keeps the food quality up and keeps the community quality up, you're not going anywhere anytime soon. And
yeah,
I'm happy for that because I like to have a place that's that I know it's your cheers. I mean, everybody knows your name and you walk in there, and I haven't worked there in 4+ years, but I still go in there and customers know me from when I served them.
yep,
And I was only there for a little while. So
yeah.
it's pretty cool.
It's quite a thing. It's quite a thing, and I'm blessed to be a part of it, and I'm doing my best in the president's seat now of the thing, as my dad's moved into a well-earned retirement. um, my goal is to keep it going for who knows what. I mean, maybe my kids want to be the next generation. If they do, great. If not, I'll
Uh,
support them in whatever they want to do. They're great kids, and they're gonna be fun to watch grow and develop here over the years. But um, I hope we can keep it going for another 40 years, another 50 years. Keep it rolling.
Even if they don't take over the business, I can't wait till one of your kids serves me a drink at the bar. That's gonna be experience I can't wait for sure.
Yeah, it's
Um,
gonna be interesting. It's gonna
It's gonna be a full
happen. It's
circle
gonna
thing. Because I mean, I
happen.
have a picture from me under the train, the train pictures in the pub with Mara, and it's when she was
Yeah,
a baby, and so
yeah,
it's gonna be that weird picture. I feel like we need to do another picture of her like handing me the drink
yeah.
next to a picture of me holding her and seeing that aspect of it too would be kind
It's
of fun.
crazy. It's crazy.
But yeah, I was like, I love the conversation. We could probably talk for hours upon hours.
Oh,
We
hell
could probably
yeah.
do a 4 hour
We
podcast. Let's not do
have done
that.
that before. We have
Yes.
done that before. I mean, my beer's empty, and you don't have one yet.
No.
So,
So it's
that's going to limit it a bit. But if we
yes.
had the beers flowing, it would be,
So
we
they're
just
what you're
lock it in.
570 Main Street. Is that where you're at?
570
Bangor?
Main Street for the pub.
34
Yep.
Abbott Street. You're opening up
34
at
Abbott
some
Street.
point. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure you'll.
Yeah, we kind of we want to do it right in some regards. We could have rushed into it as soon as we were able
Yep.
to, but we've got staff that works in both locations, and
Mhm.
we've got to get things figured out on scheduling, and hopefully this is going to mean being able to hire some more people back, or hire some new people into the mix too, which has been a whole challenge through this
Yep.
pandemic as well.
Doing it right now. I'll tell you that much. It's
Yeah,
not fun.
it's really a challenge. So, we wanted to make sure it was staffed right. We wanted to make sure it was good to go. But I think we're looking at kind of a soft target for next week, to kind of knock the
Yep.
dust off, and get it rolling, and then see where it goes from there.
Same thing we're thinking about Bangor. It's like we were just like I have right now currently staffed at Orono Brewing Company for bartenders. I have 3. And
Yeah.
I have a massive location in Orono and then a Bangor tasting room. And I'm like, let's just get Orono open, get things going, and then we'll worry about Bangor and get someone down there. It's not easy right now, and not a lot
Yeah.
of people want to come back to work. So
Yeah, no, for sure. And
do it
people
right.
don't want to come back to work for a lot of reasons,
Yep.
you know, a lot of them are fair. You know, I get it, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, we're looking pretty good with it. We're excited about where it can go,
Yeah. So yeah, you can get you guys are on Facebook, Instagram, all those things. The website, Geaghans.com. I recommended. I got wings in not Friday night, but the Friday night before that. Lucky enough
thank
that
you.
Pete threw in some pub cheese for me with a little thank you note, and then I realized that I have no way of actually thanking him. Uh, so if you see Pete, tell Justin says thank you for the pub cheese.
Will do.
But yeah,
Yeah,
it was like one of those things. I'm like, it's one of the few people I don't have their phone number or not active with on
yeah.
Facebook, and I'm like, unless I go back in there, I'm not going to be able to thank you. So thank you, Pete. It was appreciative.
Oh, we'll see.
Taylor was very happy.
We'll see you on your birthday. I'll make sure
Yeah,
he's there.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I really appreciate it, Andy. We'll talk again soon. Okay, man.
Yeah, much love, my man. We'll talk soon. Cheers.